Okay, looks like we have a quorum. So thank you everyone for joining the ANC 1C meeting of the full commission for October 2021. My name is Amir Irani. I'm chair of ANC 1C. I'd like to start with my fellow commissioners by them introducing themselves, starting from the top. Commissioner Clem, 1C08. Seems like there might be some technical difficulties there. So we'll go down from there and go down to Commissioner Faulkner.
Hi, yes, I'm Commissioner Megan Faulkner. I am Commissioner for 1C04 in the northwest corner of Adams Morgan.
Go ahead on down.
Hi, Peter Wood, 1C03, right in the middle, depending on how you look at it. Biltmore, Wyoming, 18th to 19th.
And I'm Celeste Carano. I represent 1C02 on the west side between Connecticut and Calvert.
Thank you, commissioners. If Commissioner Clem, I see your video is on. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Fiona Clem. Can you hear me? I'm having problems tonight. I represent 1C08 in the southeast corner of Adams Morgan.
Thank you, Commissioner Clem. So moving on to the chair's report. I don't have anything to report tonight, so we can move on to Secretary Clem.
Thank you. Secretary has nothing to report tonight.
Great. Treasurer Faulkner, I understand you have a report or presentation on the proposed FY22 budget. I'll also give the community an opportunity to pose questions, please.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes, absolutely. I will share my screen. 1 second. This is also available, I believe, on the agenda as well, if people would like to look at it more closely. So our proposed, the proposed budget is this sort of middle section, proposed FY22. It says projected FY21, although this is basically how it ended up at the end of the fiscal year, but it just, that's the column label. As you can see, the district allotment, we expect to get 6 allotments this year, although the timing of that could change a lot. This year, we thought we were going to get 6 allotments, and some of them are coming in this next fiscal year, so that will vary. Then, you know, below expenses for personnel, potentially office costs, communications, which is, this is mostly, I think this last year was for our web domain, but if we want to print, you know, if we want to print things or do other things, I built that in there. Office supplies, that is primarily, that is for our PO box, which we will have to pay again in January. Grants are the biggest chunk of our budget. We have historically not budgeted anything for transportation. Purchase of services, that is substantially larger because our accountant neglected to invoice us for this last fiscal year. We'll be paying for this past year and then this coming year, as well as the costs for our AV contract, which I know we are discussing later. Bank charges are primarily, you know, we get charged for, they charge us to have our checks, images on the statement, which we need for the city. And then there's also a little built in there in case we have a check lost or something, mostly so we don't have to do a resolution to pay a $25 stop payment fee or something. And then the other is for the ANC security fund. which we will have to do again in January or February, I believe. So that is just a very quick overview of the budget. If anyone has questions, I guess commissioners can start first.
Is the direct office cost, is that to Mary Center?
Yeah, that would be to Mary Center if that's, you know, if that's, if we do go back to there.
Mm-hmm. That looks good. And I think it's fair to estimate that the grants budget will go higher. So thank you for putting this together, Treasurer Faulkner. And questions from other commissioners? How about members of the community? You can dial *9 if you're calling in, or just raise your hand in Zoom. Okay. Hearing none, we can move on. Thanks again for putting this together. Moving to commissioner announcements. If you are chair of a committee, please also announce the committee agenda and the day and time of your meeting. And let's start at the top. Commissioner Clem.
So I really only have, I don't really have very many announcements. I just want to remind everybody that we're getting a new area code, which I think is pretty amazing after 47 years and being one of the last major metropolitan areas with only one area code. So after October 9th, if you have a 202 number, you have to dial 10 digits, which and next month they'll be distributing 771 area codes. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Clem. Commissioner Boots, would you like to introduce yourself, your single member district, and also tell us about your announcements?
Yes, I apologize for being late. I'm Ben Boots, 1C06. I don't actually have any announcement as well, other than I hope it was great to see so many people out in the community over the past few weeks with all the events going on. They seem to be all very successful. And just thank you for the community members who are organizing them.
Thank you, Commissioner Boots. Go ahead.
So just a few quick announcements. People may know that DDOT has been piloting this new parking program for the last few months. However, 2020 parking passes were still valid through the end of September. That has now been extended through the end of the year. I think many people may have heard that. Obviously, it's now October 6th, but if people are still having issues with getting the parking system to work and still have the 2020 passes, those are still valid. And then just a note about the Marie Reed Pool, which the hours had gotten cut back a few weeks ago, and I had heard from several folks that they're getting very crowded in the morning. So DPR actually ended up reaching out to DCPS, and they, starting next Tuesday, they're going to extend the hours back to from 6 to 9 on weekday mornings, and 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. in the evening. Monday through Friday. Then Saturday hours, which are 10 to 5, will stay unchanged. But that will hopefully mean the pool is less crowded. So just wanted to share that with folks. And I think that's all for me.
Thanks, Commissioner. Let's keep going.
So yeah, it's been a fun month. I mean, a lot of people gave a lot of really positive. I helped out with Adams Morgan Day and Porch Fest. So it was nice to see, like Commissioner Boots was saying, a lot of people are happy. I think I heard someone at one point say, "Oh wow, this is what a city's like." So, and it was positive. So, so that was nice. State DC, I know Commissioner Faulkner and I have both had some experience helping people with applications. I've had some people email me again this month and last month asking for help on items like that. Please reach out to us collectively. We can help people that are needing help with that whole process. It's time's kind of running out until the end of the year. We'll keep updates if it gets adjusted. And then also an event, it's not directly in ANC 1C, but I think that some businesses might be involved in some capacity or not. On the 23rd of October, an event I've helped organize just as a volunteer, which is for suicide prevention awareness on October 23rd on the mall. Contact me if you're interested in just knowing what that's about. And I think that is it. Yeah, I think I said this last time too. I have things that are almost ready to say, but I won't say it. I'll wait till next month.
Okay, great. Commissioner Carrano.
Hi, I'm Commissioner Carrano. I chair the Public Service Environment Committee, and our next meeting will be the 27th at 7 p.m. and the agenda is forthcoming. So we'll look to share that by online and by email and public postings as we usually do. And the only announcement I wanted to make is that Jubilee Housing is going to be hosting a fundraiser on October 20th, and I will share that in the chat. If you're interested in supporting the work they do in our community, you might be interested in checking it out and potentially attending.
Thanks, Commissioner Carrano. Actually, that's a great fundraiser that I'm planning on attending. So thanks for bringing that up. So next week we are holding an ABC and Public Safety Committee meeting. The officers from PSA, that's Police Service Area 303, will be providing their monthly update. That's October 13th at 7 p.m. You can find the meeting access details at anc1c.org. We will also be hearing from a new restaurant ABC license applicant called Delight Cafe. And Delight Cafe will be located at 2475 18th Street. And in addition to the ABC meeting, which is next week, the following week, on Wednesday, the 20th at 7 p.m., there's a PZT meeting. That's a Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee meeting. There is nothing on the agenda at the moment, which is a rarity for that committee. But something might come up. Something sure as heck will probably come up. And you can always go to anc1c.org to find those meeting access details there. I did realize that I'm not sure if I had said I am a Mary Ronnie. I'm chair of ANC 1C, but I also represent 1C01, and that is the southwest corner of Adams Morgan. So moving to public announcements. Thank you, commissioners, for those announcements. Raise your hand or press *9, and we'll just take them all in order. Let's start with Ali Bobak from Councilmember Nadeau's office.
Ali, you should be able to unmute yourself.
Yep. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hello, everybody in ANC1C. My name is Ali Bobak. I'm the Deputy Director for Constituent Services for Councilmember Nadeau. For those listening, my number is 202-531-5186. Email is abobak@dccouncil.us. Don't have any big announcements, definitely here to answer questions, but we were very excited to make sure that the Marie Reed pool hours were extended. So thank you, Commissioner, for mentioning that. We're the start of the new fiscal year, so all the exciting budget investments that Councilmember Nadeau ensured will be starting soon, and I know she'll be hopefully coming to the commission soon to give an update on those. And I just want to make a plug, as always, that if you want to sign up for our newsletter to get more consistent updates from our office, you can at brianneknadeau.com, and I'll post that all in the chat. And that's all I have, unless anybody has questions for me tonight.
Thank you, Ali.
Thanks.
Chris Otten.
Go ahead, Chris.
Hi. Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I guess there's no video.
Hold on one second. You should come up. Hey, Allie, but while we're waiting, Steve Segerlin has asked in the Q&A, can Councilmember Nadeau see how we can get more bikes for cabbie? I think he's talking about in Popville the other day, there are reports of bike shares not being available at the docks in Adams Morgan.
Yeah, no, definitely. I actually was talking to my colleague about that yesterday, and we have reached out to Lyft, who I believe manages that, to kind of get a sense of what's going on. So I didn't hear the name, but if the individual who put the question wants to email me with my email that I put in the chat, I can follow up with what we learn as we work on that. So we've already started investigating.
Go ahead, Chris. Oh, looks like he dropped off.
Okay. Tara Vasefi. Gordon, will you please make me co-host so that I can?
Yes, sorry about that.
Thank you.
Hi all. So I can turn on video if you want to have video on for me.
Hold on one second.
Excellent. Hi all. I'm here to just share my perspective about what's happening in the plaza with the Adams Morgan Plaza. And I won't take up too much of your time, but basically through a conversation with Commissioner Wood, where he came to the plaza while I was there one day and was basically trying to play devil's advocate on the case and like kind of poke holes in the argument. And truthfully, it was really traumatizing because I'm a resident of this neighborhood. I want to live and die in this neighborhood. I love this place very, very much. And he kept kind of repeating these official narratives that I keep hearing over and over again, that the case is over, they could have built the fence anyway, that this is private property, that, you know, so on and so forth. And these things just aren't true. That's why you have thousands of people like me who are doing everything we can every day to be able to save that public space, that important public space. And for Adams Morgan Day this year, if you watch the last 10 minutes of this video, you can get a better idea of how we have to continually counter those official narratives. And the other thing I'd like to talk about is this idea that we don't want to increase tensions in the neighborhood. That's the third official narrative that keeps coming up. This, you know, this is a contentious situation. The plaza is a contentious situation and we don't want to get involved. Adams Morgan Day wants to be neutral. The Adams Morgan bid wants to be neutral. I imagine the ANC wants to be neutral. And what that means is that it's not neutrality when you're silent on an issue. So what actually happened as a result of this video in the last 10 minutes is I was asked to leave and not be a volunteer for Adams Morgan Day anymore, which anyone who knows me knows that that is my favorite day of the year. And the reason for that is because the board of the Adams Morgan, whatever the entity that puts on Adams Morgan Day, was like, Tara, we talked about it and we want to, it's in our bylaws that we don't want to increase tensions in the neighborhood. And so we're going to stay neutral on this situation. And to them, what neutrality means is that when I'm walking around and I'm showing all the things that are going on in Adams Morgan Day, at Calorama Park, at Marie Reed, I also show them what's happening at the plaza. And that to them means that that we are not being neutral. And so I just want you all to have a think real quick about what neutrality means in the face of injustice. And this is an injustice. Having a developer steal this land from the public to be able to build useless condos that we do not need anymore is an injustice. So when you want to be neutral, recognize that you are not neutral. You are actually really fortifying them. You're fortifying the developers. You're fortifying the people who are stealing this land, and you're causing trauma to your own constituents, to the people who live here and love this neighborhood and want to live here. Okay?
Thank you, Tara, for sharing that perspective and for keeping it brief. I'm going to continue to take the public announcements. Please do try to limit the time to 2 minutes. Next hand up was Kristen Barton. So Kristen, go right ahead.
Hey guys, so thank you all for everyone who came out this past Saturday for Porch Fest. It was really a tremendous day. We had an overwhelming response. In fact, more people than we really anticipated. For the first time, we did an Eventbrite sign up, and we had only like 500 people sign up on there as of Friday. And we guesstimate that there was probably 6,000 or 7,000 people walking around the neighborhood throughout the day. So we really had an overwhelming response, which was terrific. The weather cooperated, and we had the social media we had done, really panned out. But I do think, I know Peter, or maybe I don't know if it was Peter, there was one of the ANC commissioners had tweeted that perhaps next year we should close Lanier, which we could definitely consider doing if we get, the same response, and if there are multiple porches on Lanier. One of the other problems we ran into this year was a couple of the Lanier porches came in, within the last week, which wouldn't really allow us to close the street with that short of time. So anyhow, something that we'll look at in the future, but thank you all. It was really a fantastic day and a fantastic event. So we have a couple of events coming up still this fall. We're doing a car show on Columbia Road on Sunday, October 24th. It's we're calling it Cars and Coffee. It's from 9 a.m. to noon. And we're partnering with the Capital Auto Club. They're bringing all exotic cars. There's around 50 cars, I think, that will be parked along Columbia Road from 16th Street to probably Belmont Road. They'll be spaced out in groups, 4 cars, so as to, get people, social distancing and to not take up, all of the parking. So it should be a really fun day. The Capital Car Club is super excited about this. They usually do this in parking lots, in the suburbs. And so to do this in a really urban setting, they're really excited about it. So, and there'll be more coming about that, but it's Sunday, the 24th from 9 to noon. So grab your coffee and come and check out these cool cars. And then the Apple Festival. I know I talked about this last month. And Amir has offered to be a judge of the apple pie contest. So thank you, Amir. That is on Saturday, October 30th. It will be in Unity Park in partnership with the Farmers Market. We have almost all of the slots filled for pie makers. We cap that at 16 just because the judges can only eat so much pie. So we have 15 of the 16 contestant spots filled. So if you're dying to make a pie for the pie contest, sign up today because it's going to be sold out really soon. And we do have a waiting list if anybody, needs to drop out. But we do cap it at 16 contestants. So, and we are going to have some great other judges. Tom Sherwood has said yes to being a judge. So Tom is always a great participant and brings a level of humor to the event. So we're excited to have him participating. And then on the 30th and 31st in the evening, we are partnering with a animation studio called Duke and Duck. It's dukeduck.com. They put out this competition throughout their industry to animators for Halloween short videos. And so they asked if we would showcase those in various locations throughout the neighborhood. So we're gonna be hopefully projecting these short kind of Halloween videos all around the neighborhood on the evening of the 30th and 31st. So, and we're calling it Adams Morgan. So stay tuned for more on the projection event. And then for the holidays, we're going to be bringing back the gift boxes again for the plaza by the kiosk where we had them last winter. And we'll also be doing some caroling and other holiday related activities, and that should all kick off right around Thanksgiving. So stay tuned for more on the holiday display. So I think that's it from me. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Kristen. The single question I see for you, where's the pie contest being held?
Oh, it's in Unity Park, and there's two landing areas in front of the hotel, and we'll be doing the judging on one side and then the pie sales on the left-hand side. And the nonprofit beneficiary this year of the pie sales is going to be AMILA, the Adams Morgan Youth Leadership Academy. So
okay.
Yeah, and they will probably have one of their young people will be a judge for the contest also.
Got it. Okay, thank you, Kristen.
Sure.
Chris is back on, so go right ahead, Chris. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Go ahead.
We see you, Chris. Go ahead. But you're on mute, so you may want to unmute.
Unmute. All right. Yay.
Yeah.
Technology. I'm happy to be here. So my name's Chris Otten. I want to just thank the commission and Kristen Barton for the awesome Porch Fest. I was watching WUSA 9, and they had like a great scan of both of our plazas, the Adams Mill Plaza and the Adams Morgan Plaza at 18th and Columbia. So it was beautiful to see both plazas filled with delight and attractions and people. And I don't know who has done that amazing work at the Adams Morgan Plaza, but it looks really beautiful with all the colors and flags and things. I do know that the folks who have been living there, I've connected with recently, and the reason why I had to go out of my way to try to connect was there was Commissioner Wood was putting out some things about me that just were untrue. So I just want to set the record straight that I am not organizing folks living on the plaza to get arrested or to do anything illegal or do anything stupid, as has been suggested in emails and texts and tweets by Commissioner Wood to people I don't know. And so I really just want to set that record.
Chris, your audio is coming a little bit in and out. I don't know. It's kind of staticky.
Okay, let me just, you know what? If I could just kill my video real quick, maybe that will help. Is that any better? Is that a little better?
It is a lot better. Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, let's just do that, man. I am working on 10-year-old laptops here. So I just want to thank, I'll start from the, if I could, just thanking Kristen Barton, the ANC, awesome Porch Fest. I saw WUSA 9 had a scan of both plazas, the Adams Mill Plaza and Morgan Plaza. I thought that was very cool at 18th and Columbia Road. The Adams Morgan Plaza is pretty awesome right now with all the colors and banners and flags. Got to give props to whoever's done that. I've been over there because I've been starting to talk to some of the folks who've been living there. I had to do that was because there's been some communications coming out of Commissioner Wood's various texts to people that I don't know who have shown me those and said that I'm somehow organizing people there to get arrested or to do illegal things or whatever. I just need to set the record straight tonight. I'm not the yourself.
Chris, we're having a really hard time hearing you. Certainly I am. Commissioners, can you hear? Okay, yeah, it's like kind of staticky. Do you want to call back in, and we can keep going through because we still have other hands up. I hate to interrupt, but it just keeps cutting in and out the audio.
Is that any better now?
That's clear, but then
is that any better?
It is.
Is that any better?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna speak as quick as I can. All right, because I got 4 bars. I'm gonna.
Got it.
All right. Just bottom line is, I just need to set the record. I just need to set the record straight. I really don't appreciate tweets, emails, texts, calling out people I don't know. Is this breaking up again?
We totally cannot hear. I can't hear it at all.
Okay.
Yeah. On ANC1C.org, there's you could dial in with a phone number. And
okay, I'll dial in
there.
I'll dial in.
Then we'll just do that without the data connection. So thanks, Chris.
Very good. Yep.
Trevoris, go right ahead.
Hi, good evening to the ANC commissioners and then also residents. Thank you so very much for allowing me to participate today. My name is Trevoris Culpepper, External Affairs Manager with PEPCO, and I just wanted to briefly just provide some updates in regards to some upcoming construction that will take place along V Street starting in November, lasting through July of 2022. We will be installing distribution lines along V Street, starting at 13th and V near the U Street area, going all the way west until to Florida Avenue Northwest, near the Champlain substation. And we're putting in these distribution feeders in preparation for the substation, Champlain substation construction, which I may add has been delayed until 2024, 2025. Our original plans were to start construction in 2023, and that has been pushed back as of recently. And we wanted to just make sure that you all were aware of this construction. We have presented to some stakeholders in the area, including the Adams Morgan bid, as well as ANC 1C Transportation and Planning Committee on last month. But we are going to, you will see notices in the mail for a community meeting that will be at the end of the month. But we wanted to alert you about this construction that is taking place. If you have any further questions, I'll put my information in the chat, and you all can email me directly if you have any further questions regarding this construction. At this time, we have not selected a contractor, and we're working through that at this moment. But once we have a contractor, we'll have a better sense of the construction phasing and timeline, and we'll be able to provide that at the upcoming community meeting. So thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you, Trevoris. Next in line, Vikram.
Hey there, greetings. Can you also see me?
I can't see you, no, but your audio is coming in clear.
I'm not sure why. I'm not even getting an option for video.
Here, actually, I can, there we go. You should be able to, Vikram, you should have the option to display your video.
Greetings.
There we go.
Hey,
Great.
Thank you everyone for your service. I really appreciate, I genuinely appreciate it. I'm here tonight to just speak about what has transpired at 1800 Columbia on September 22nd and 24th. As you all know, there's been litigation ongoing. As you may know, Frank Smith, the former chair of this ANC, negotiated an agreement with the bank in 1976 and 1977 about the public space there. Tara was mentioning Adams Morgan Day. He just 2 weeks ago testified again to the community about his involvement in that. It's well documented in the Washington Post, and I'd like to actually be able to enter into the ANC's records the letter from the bank president to the community, as well as the federal agreement with the Federal Home Loan Bank Board that mentions the ANC explicitly as part of the Anti-Racist Banking Practices Agreement, as well as the federal charter of that bank that was issued by the Federal Home Loan Bank Board, as well as the multiple write-ups in the Washington Post mentioning this ANC and the agreement that was made regarding continuing to preserve public space there. So all of that is what Truist has been fighting now for 3 years. Ultimately, in January, on the last week of the Trump administration, they managed to get a judge and a judgment that bounced us out of court without being able to put any of this information that you all should have and deserve to see in front of a jury of our peers. And so that's what the appeal is about, is that we're essentially just asking for the judge, the panel of judges, to let us put this information in front of a jury and decide, did the bank intend to provide space to the community in perpetuity? Obviously I have my opinion about it. Maybe reasonable people looking at that evidence might differ. The thing that happened, though, on the September 22nd and 24th is really of another category. The bank attempted to privatize the space without having valid work permits. So as anybody knows who's moved even a stick of furniture in this town, you've got to go get a permit to put up the little sign that lets you put a moving truck. They brought 4 semis for 4 hours on Columbia Road, loaded with 2-ton concrete Jersey barriers, about 40 of them, and lined them up and down Columbia Road on the morning of September 24th. Diesel gas fumes were blowing into elderly people's windows on the 2nd floor along Columbia Road. They were crossing a public sidewalk during school hours with a forklift with 2-ton Jersey barriers on it. All of this without DDOT or DCRA work permits to do any of this. They were essentially just trying to bully the community out of that space so that they could render the court case irrelevant. It's really been an extremely distressing thing for many people to experience and to witness. The other part of the whole equation is the homeless who have been encamped there, our neighbors, for 2 years now. I've had extensive contact now with the Miriam's Kitchen caseworker and with a number of different people about what's going on with them. The short of it is that they are not being supported and resourced. They were moved to a hotel for 2 weeks. That ended yesterday. One gentleman had been in the hospital last week, Nate Johnson. He'd been in the hospital last week with a heart condition. I explicitly reached out to his caseworker and said, listen, he's got a heart condition. He shouldn't be sleeping in a tent. And I said that not just as his friend, but I'm also a licensed health worker in the district. That was ignored. And he ended up passing out on a bus, leaving that hotel to try to come back to the plaza. That was his home for 2 years. And
Vikram, thank you. I had started the timer a little bit later, which was my oversight.
Okay. But I appreciate it. I just want to wrap up by saying that, I really would appreciate the ability to just enter this basic information that are ANC documents into the ANC's record regarding that space. And for this ANC to just attend to the possibility that injustice quickly is not better than justice slowly. Thanks.
Thank you, Vikram. So we do have another hand up. Eric.
Excellent. Can you hear me?
Yes, sure can. Go
okay,
ahead.
Great. Yeah, I just wanted to briefly kind of discuss a little bit what Vikram was pointing on or bringing up. And I was a witness to these events that happened on the 22nd and the 24th. And, and I am an architect in the city, and I can attest that, you need permits for everything you want to do in this city. And the fact that I believe there were 5 tractor trailers loaded sitting on Columbia Road, not just sitting on Columbia Road, but in a lane of traffic. They were blocking an entire lane of traffic, from approximately, 4 o'clock to about 10 o'clock to when they were eventually turned away, just sitting there. No traffic control plan, no one was directing traffic, nothing. I mean, pedestrians and automotive, people driving their cars were all veering into the same lane. The lead tractor trailer actually even parked over a crosswalk. The same gentleman I say gentleman loosely, who was driving this lead truck, engaged with members of the public using derogatory racial slurs against them, asking them, why don't you have an effing job? Don't you have a cab to go drive? I mean, what is this? And these were contractors hired by Truist. Okay, and the only way that they were turned away was by the actions of the public that basically halted that, waited for cooler heads to arrive, contacted the local police, contacted DCRA, got them down to the site and said, no, you do not have the proper permits to be doing this. You got to get out of here, you know? And this not happened once, but twice. Twice they attempted this. So I would like to see the ANC, and we can, you know, members of the public could fill you in with more information, but I would like to see some sort of letter from the ANC condemning Truist's actions on the 22nd and particularly the 24th, because that is not a way any entity should act within Adams Morgan, regardless of how you feel about the plaza. I mean, that is just extremely disrespectful and not safe.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Eric, for expressing that, and for everyone that had expressed their opinion and the stated for the record what they had seen, observed there on SunTrust on Adams Morgan Plaza. So I just want to do a quick scan, see if there are any other hands. Okay, seeing none. Let's move on to the next item on our agenda.
Hey, Amir, there's one question for Ren. Oh, go. He's raised his hand.
Oh, okay. I don't see the hand up. Oh, there we go. Okay.
Ren, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sure can.
Hi, I'm Ren. I've actually wanted to talk a bit more about the unhoused neighbors on the plaza that we've been talking about. I've been befriending them for over a year now, and when I met them, it was truly a dire situation. With the pandemic, many of them had been in a lot of fear about going into the shelters. With a lack of services and just a lot of shuttered sort of situations with different organizations. Many of the female community members there had been facing assault. They were, you know, without water, without proper food. And it was really through the community coming together, mutual aid from the individuals, just going to buy nothing groups, texting one another. And I had to really go around and just figure out how we could get these folks to not freeze to death over the winter. And through that time, but beyond survival, I've really become friends with them. They're really part of my community, my neighborhood, my family. Such a big reason why I love Adams Morgan. Also a huge reason I've really become engaged with the community and wanting to pour my love and efforts to this neighborhood. And so when I see what's happened over the last month and just the ability for Truist to come in and be so violently dismissive of the humanity of not only the community, but the unhoused residents, especially when you take into account, you know, as Vikram said, Nathan just out of surgery, you know, having a heart condition, which could have been fatal. And, you know, it was very lucky that he was at the ER last week. We have another gentleman in his 70s who's a veteran, and on. They all are individuals, and every day they are unable to sleep with the fear that Truist will come and violently remove them. And there have been incidents over the past week where that has happened. And I think I would just really urge the council members and the community members here and the leadership to really think about what we can do to protect them. And I don't know the right answer, but right now what's happening, it can't stand.
Thank you, Ren, and thank you for keeping it brief, but also thank you for coming on to express your concern. So we have one more hand up, and so go right ahead, dialing in.
Hi, this is Chris. This is Chris Sutton. Can you hear me?
Chris, we sure can hear you loud and clear, much better than before.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Thank you. All right. So Chris Otten, again, just thanking everybody for being here, volunteers to the community. I just wanted to, there's a couple things that I really want pointedly, since Ali Bovek is here and Peter Wood is here, and you all have been working with Brianne Nadeau to help the folks that have been living at our plaza. I just want to point out, helping the folks that living at the plaza doesn't mean shuffling them to motels for 2 weeks so that Truist Bank, a private prison funding bank, Trump loving bank, to put up fences around where they've been living and kick them out. That's not help, shuffling them to motels. So I really want to hear from Ali and Brianne and Peter Wood, Commissioner Wood, what truly is going to be done to house folks. Because guess what, ANC 1C and everybody, if it takes Brianne Nadeau, our council member, 6 months to 10 months to try to house 10 people living at our plaza and can't do it, and they're still out on this, they're still here or out on somewhere else, or in a motel until they're kicked out, they're not actually in housing being helped. We have a serious problem with our housing system in DC, and I'd love to see our ANC explore that, probe what is going on with Brianne Nadeau and our housing system that folks cannot get housed that have been living at the plaza. The last thing is, I'd love to clear the record publicly. Peter Wood has been emailing, texting, tweeting various people who have then forwarded me those texts and emails and tweets saying that I, Chris Otten, somehow he knows that I, Chris Otten, have been going to the plaza to organize the people there, not bring them food or blankets or cook with them or hang out with them and be friends with them. No, rather I'm organizing with them to get arrested or do illegal things. I need to clarify the record. Mr. Wood, I did reach out to you on this and you never responded. That is not the truth, and it is libel to continue to push that out there. I'm actually working with the people there. I have videotape of people who've been shuffled to the motels that you helped them get to the motel, Mr. Wood, I believe, and have now been pushed out of the motels and are back on the street and being threatened by this racist bank again. So I really would like an answer from Brianne's staff and office and this ANC to help probe what is wrong with our housing system that we can't get 10 people housed for more than 10 months. It's pretty outrageous, right? So I'm here to support. I want to advocate for a better system, but I need to know why we can't get people housed that have been living at the Adams Morgan Plaza.
Thank you, Chris, and I appreciate your efforts to get back on and give a clear message there, because your prior efforts, it was just a bad internet connection on staticky. And thanks for keeping it brief. We have one more hand up. Former Chair Commissioner Alan Roth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be very brief. I just want to point out the last month I made some comments about Commissioner Wood's op-ed in the Washington Post. Tonight we've heard from Mr. Otten and Ms. Vasethi, and there's been some material put in the chat that shows that this is yet another example of constituents complaining about Commissioner Wood characterizing their thoughts and intentions without any personal knowledge on his part of what's in the mind of those constituents, and engaging in defamatory conduct and making defamatory statements about things that those constituents are thinking or doing. Now, Commissioner Wood put out a broad email to his email list this past week in which he made a point of crouching down on the sidewalk and showing off this big chalk message that he put out there that said, "Spread kindness." And I would just suggest to Commissioner Wood that he take his own advice. Thank you.
Thanks, Alan. All right, so I don't see any other hands up. Moving to the next item on our agenda, we do have we have officials from the director. We have officials from the Office of Lottery and Gaming and the Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration joining us. Peter Alvarado is here with us, and so is Sarah Fashbaugh. They will discuss recent changes that allow for betting at ABC licensed establishments. This is relevant for us in Adams Morgan because Grand Central is the first Class B licensee of these new the betting licenses. And Grand Central is on 18th Street, located at 2447 18th Street, sort of right in the middle, the heart of that 18th Street strip. And it is the first district restaurant bar to add wagering to add betting to its operations. The other ones are Class A, which are large establishments, like Capital One Arena, et cetera. So with that introduction, I do want to hand it off to Peter and Sarah. And let me just, and Sarah is a dear friend of ANC1C because she's always been a helpful resource. She's community resource officer at ABRA. So thank you both for joining. We can hear something happening. Don't see anything. All right. Great. Thanks for joining. Go ahead. You have the floor.
You want to start off, Sarah?
Okay, sure. I'll be brief. Hi, everyone. My name is Sarah Fashbaugh. I'm the Community Resource Officer with the Alcoholic Beverage Regulation Administration. I've spoken to many of the commissioners. Also happens to be my commission, so it's good to see that you guys are organized. Thank you. I am really here to support Peter. If you have any questions about the alcohol licensing portion of it, what ABRA enforces, how to file a protest, this application has already been approved, so that is, the horse is already out the gate. But for future applications, how ABRA handles it, and I'm here to support Peter in that. So.
Thank you, Sarah. As Sarah mentioned, my name is Peter Alvarado. I'm the Director of Regulation and Oversight at the Office of Lottery and Gaming. So my office is the one that does the licensing of all gaming activities in the District of Columbia. And what I think I probably should do is maybe just focus on what we call the Class B. So Amir mentioned the Grand Central, which just opened on Monday, which, by the way, was not just the first of its kind here in the district, but actually nationwide. Traditionally, sports wagering operations, sports books, are tied to a casino, typically inside a casino or on a mobile app that runs, throughout the jurisdiction. This is the first time where it's actually separated, runs independently of a casino, and is actually in this case, a sports bar. So let me just run through a few things so you get an idea of the licensing process and what we do at the Office of Lottery and Gaming in terms of licensing these kinds of operations. And I'm just going to cover the Class B because I think that's what's of most interest to you. I'm not going to go into the Class A's, which is the big stadiums and all that. But basically these Class Bs, they can be attached to any, there's no limit on them, but they can be attached to any bar, restaurant, or even a coffee shop. It just has to be an existing business. That's how the legislation was written. And so you can have one in any of these locations, but it's quite an extensive process to get there. Just in the application process itself, the application fee to to start the process is $100,000. So we're not talking about a small license fee they pay. In fact, it's not a license fee, it's an application fee. So if they go through the entire process, they've paid their application fee. At the end, we may say, you're not, we're denying you a license. We have done that. And so it's a non-refundable fee. So you really have to make sure that this is really truly, and we have that discussion with anybody who approaches us that they're looking to file an application. We have that discussion of the rigors of what it's going to take to get licensed. But a few things to know about what we do. We do quite a bit of vetting in terms of the applicants. So when they submit an application, we do a background investigation, not just on the company itself, but on any owner, whether it's another company or an individual who is a 10% owner or more of the company. Oh, excuse me, 5% owner or more of the company. And so we run a background check on them that includes a criminal history check, a litigation check, a civil compliance check. We do credit check, business license, clean hands. And then we do a financial suitability check. And that's probably one of the ones that gets a lot of them. And financial suitability, we do a deep dive into their financial affairs, because one of the things we have to make sure is that they're going to run a sports book in the district, in a bar or restaurant, that they are financially suitable to do that, able to do that. One of the things about sports books is that it's what we call, it's a house bank game. The players are playing against you. As an operator, as a restaurant, everything, you make money when they lose their bet. And so what happens if something goes on with the sports game, whatever, and they win, right? And they win a lot. And so what happens when they're winning, when the players win more than they actually bet? So these businesses have to be able to cover what we call the negative hold. They have to be able to cover making payouts beyond what was bet. And so that's why we do the financial suitability check, and we require them to be bonded and post bonds. We require them to have reserves based on how much risk they're doing, what their betting limits will be. And so it goes through a lot. It takes about 6 to 9 months to get through that process. So earlier this week, we saw that we licensed Grand Central. They had their grand opening, I think it was on Monday. They started the process about 6 months ago. We had probably discussions with them probably a year ago on this. And so it's not something that is taken lightly. It's something that is carefully monitored. And then we have oversight. And so we do compliance audits, just to digress a little bit to the Class A's. If some of you know about the sports book over at Capital One Arena, we have oversight and do surprise inspections, audits throughout the entire process, because we want to ensure that that when we license, that we are assured that it's something good for the district, something good for the resident. It's safe, and we don't want to put something out there that's dangerous. And as we work with ABRA is part of that process, because obviously in these, you have an opportunity. ABRA considers it a substantial change when they're going to put a sports book. So they have to give an endorsement of it, which means the ANC gets the opportunity to give their opinions on it. And the OLG, my office, we are always open to if you ever have any concerns of a sports book that's going up, or potentially, we put everybody who's applied for a license, we make that public information. And so it's posted on our website. So you can always look at it there. But sometimes you may get a notice from ABRA that there's been, an application submitted. So that one we'll always listen to the community to see if they have any concerns, what those concerns are. And so we will do that. Lastly, I want to talk about another type of sports book that we also have in the district. Okay, the OLG is not only regulating sports book, but we also run our own sports book. And if you're familiar, you may be familiar with Gambit DC. It's a mobile app that runs the entire District of Columbia with certain restrictions. And so you could actually bet anywhere in the district on the mobile app. About a month or two ago, the district went ahead and we rolled out our retail part of that. And so with the retail part is that certain businesses, they're not an independent sports book. They are operating as an agent of the OLG and our sports book, where in those establishments, we're putting in self-betting terminals where you can bet using the machine, just self-betting. If you're familiar with sometimes with racetracks, they have them, but you can just bet like that and use cash. And so we also provide those, and those are a little differently because again, that's our agents, the restaurants. The fees are less. Those are like 5,000. Their application fee is about 5,000, and there's a maximum. They could only put 5 in any particular location. So that's the other one, but those also have to go through the ABRA process. So ABRA has to give an endorsement on those. So sometimes that's how you'll get notification. But regardless, I mean, anytime the ANC has any issues with any applicant or anything like that, aside from raising it to ABRA, and we work closely with them, and throughout this whole process, we're always willing to listen and hear what concerns you might have, because you may have some concerns that we didn't realize. And again, when we're doing these licensees, we are looking at making sure that it's something that's safe for the district and its residents. So with that, I think we'll just put it out there. If any of you have any questions for Sarah and I on any of this.
Thank you for first of all, for coming tonight and for your patience before presenting. I also want to give a thanks to Commissioner Boots for suggesting that we have officials come on and take some questions from the neighborhood and from the commission. A question I have is, how about security? What are security requirements going to be like for Grand Central? I mean, there has been crime, and not just crimes of property, but violence on 18th Street, right? So tell us about security plans and requirements there.
So the requirement is that they do have, they have to submit, among other things, they have to submit a surveillance and security plan to us. So aside from the security cameras that have to go up in the inside the location, they also have to have secure rooms where the cash and the vault and everything is located. And then depending on the size, and it varies a bit, with the size of the restaurant or the bar, but they have to have licensed security guards. And so we have to ensure that they're licensed. They have to be there during times. We take a look at it. What's their plan? We always ask them, what's your operational plan? Are you going to open at 9 o'clock in the morning? Are you going to stay open till whatever closing time is in terms of serving alcohol? And so based on that, we will talk to them about what are the security requirements that we feel that you need along that, and it may change. And so, like I said earlier, how we do inspections and surprise inspections, we've done some where we've come back to the operator and said, you know what, you're going to have to increase your security, because we see that when it comes to be Friday, the volume of people is going way up, and you need more security on hand to be able to manage that load. And so we also talked with MPD. So we have conversations throughout this process with MPD, and we have a close relationship with them, telling them what time are the peak hours. And so they then come in and speak usually with the operator about, when are you going to open, when are you going to close, how far, is there any special weekend, do you expect a big crowd over the weekend, or maybe even starting on Thursday, or maybe on Monday night because of Monday Night Football. And so security is a big concern for us. And so we do keep a close eye on who they're hiring for security. And so, because sometimes we have to license them, so we have to do background checks on the security personnel, or if they're not already special police officers or licensed by DCRA in the city. And so it is a concern. So we do take that very seriously, because we're no stranger to see that they are that if you're having a lot of cash around, sometimes that crime follows.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. Lots of, besides arguments and things that might happen, just people being paid out and then walking back to that parking space they got 3 blocks away with a bunch of cash, and everyone knowing that they just won money. So it sounds like you guys have considered this probably top of mind.
Yes.
Yeah. And is there a plan? I just have one more question. I'll hand it off to the rest of the commissioners and members of the audience. But how about the number of Class B licenses given out in a particular neighborhood? Has anyone given thought to capping so we don't turn into the strip for DC of where you go place a bet? Has any thought been given to that?
Only in theory. Only in theory, because we've talked about it internally, because the statute was written the way it was written. It didn't make any restrictions with that respect. The only restriction is that there's an exclusivity zone around the stadiums, around Capital One Arena, around Nats Park, around Audi Field. And that exclusivity means that other restaurant and bars that are located within 2 blocks, you can't put a sports book there because that's the exclusive zone of whoever's operating in that area. But other than that, let's just take where Grand Central is located. Yeah, there's no restriction on what can happen there. So we've talked about it internally about, what do we do and how do we assess that if that's potentially, bad for DC, bad for its residents. And that again goes, as we talked about it in theory, because we haven't had that situation come up and we just don't have that many, because of the cost and everything, we don't have that many Class B applications. We said, well, that's something that we would probably hear from the ANC, that the ANC would probably, if that was an issue, they would probably speak up, or we may just solicit from the ANC comment if they have any concerns about other places maybe being too close together.
Right. And that makes sense. I don't have a particular viewpoint on that, if what might come along with that right now, but I know that a lot of deliberation, a lot of thought is being given on your side, as it should. So it's good to know that you guys are at least thinking about it, and we'll certainly let you guys know if things do come up or if things bubble up and we hear about it. So my fellow commissioners, questions for Peter or Sarah? Commissioner Boots, go ahead.
Hi, I would also just like to reiterate, really thankful for both of you to spend some time with us tonight. It's very, very exciting that we're the first neighborhood to get one of these new sports books. And I think most of my questions really relate, and why I really was hoping that you'd be able to talk with us is just kind of how you envision working with the ANC. I think you went through the process. It seems like on your side, there is a pretty extensive review process in the 6 to 9 months. I think my biggest concern is that I wasn't aware, and it seemed like for most of the commissioners that I talked with, really about this until about kind of this happening until we saw the press release. And it might have been put on the website and things like that, but I'm hoping that there might be some ideas of making sure that, the ANC is notified with enough time to have comment, if that's through ABRA or another through that process. I would be just interested to hear kind of how you ensure that kind of we're aware of it, so that if there is, any comment that we'd want to make or any thoughts on it, that we're able to do it kind of in your process and you're not in your timeline.
Okay. Well, specifically with Grand Central, I believe we were aware that they had so much publicity going out about their grand opening, that to a degree, maybe we just assumed that everybody in the neighborhood knew. But you're concerned that may not be the case. Again, we always have the ability to reach out and solicit comment from an ANC. And I mean, we talked to ABRA if they haven't already. ABRA hasn't already received that sort of comment. So I think moving forward, we did have a brief discussion about it about a week ago internally in the office, and we said that in these cases we should probably reach out and solicit some comment from the local ANC that, sees that. I mean, I know they're commenting or getting some comment feedback to ABRA, but we should, probably insert ourselves in a little bit of that process just to hear what kind of feedback, if there's any concerns. Because there was one other Class B location in another part of the city where in that case, the ANC did reach out to us directly because they had some grave concerns about it, and they had brought them up to ABRA, and then they brought them up directly with us. They contacted us, and we talked to them about it.
Yeah, no, I think that would be very helpful to us. I think a lot of departments send us kind of emails of things that are happening, just to give notice, that I find very beneficial that we're able to be a part of that process. And I think for Grand Central and for this area, I don't think I would actually have any objection or any concern about it. It's more just the process moving forward. Next question, just in kind of the 6 to 9 month process, is there ability for just like public comments, not through the ANC, but just the regular people having any?
It would just be us. One, if you just reach out to us, just like that other ANC just reached out to us and said, okay, let's talk to them because they have some concerns. So we can have a meeting with them. But there's nothing they didn't put anything in the statute or the regulations regarding us to mandate that. I think it's only ABRA that has and Sarah can speak to this better than I can, but it's only ABRA that has that mandated, endorsement process where they have to give notice and then solicit comments. So,
Peter, may I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I recognize that the ANC is mostly newer commissioners. It does look like the placard went up in 2019, which is probably why many of you feel like you haven't been notified about that process. Just note that during this time, placards do go up, and they are currently going up for 66 days as opposed to the normal 45 days, to be considerate of the fact that everyone's meeting during COVID. So these placards are going up for 66 days. Grand Central is considered a restaurant license, and all restaurant licenses are up for renewal in March of 2022, so in about 6 months or less, which means that if there's any ongoing issues that you experience, you can protest during that time, and that would be your opportunity for community engagement in regards to this particular license.
Great. Thank you, Sarah, and thank you very much. I am a new commissioner. This is my first year, so that clarification is very helpful. And again, I realize this is a new process and going through it, and I'm really happy that you are here, willing to kind of listen to feedback. And I hope as we continue to move forward that the process continues to be open and collaborative.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Boots, and for those questions. Questions from other commissioners? There's a hand up. Tara, go right ahead.
Hi, it's Tara Vasefi again. You can turn on the video because I'd like to say I'm actually really concerned about this. It's kind of wild to me with everything that's going on that a gambling establishment is what we're getting an injection of funds into, and it's particularly very concerning to me to hear about this securitization that you're talking about, Peter, with the coordinating closely with MPD and all the concerns about security, because we know how racist the police are in this city, and we know that the police are the enforcement mechanism of white supremacy. And so, and I in particular have worked with various establishments in Adams Morgan who, see the way that ABRA works with MPD and the security details of the bid to really, target certain businesses. And that is also done along racial lines. And so I'm just really, really concerned to hear that, there's this new thing that's going to be coming into the neighborhood that's going to attract more police attention, and that us as the residents now have to deal with this, the concern that everyone's going to have that you have one establishment in the middle of 18th Street where there's going to be more, potential for crime and potential for violence and things like this. So I'm really, really disheartened to hear that this is what people are choosing to invest $100,000 in just to get the application for this place. And so my question is, what is that $100,000 used for? Where does it go? And when you were doing your digging into the financials of Grand Central, where did this money come from? How does a business that has, a restaurant business that's been, as I live here, I see what it looks like. It hasn't been doing well in the pandemic. So I'm curious to know if in your financial analysis, you were able to see where they got this injection of $100,000 just to be able to pay for the application without any guarantee that they would even get this particular license. So that's two questions. One, what happens to that $100,000? Where does that go? And two, where did it come from?
Okay, well, one, where did it come from? The specifics of the review are confidential in terms of where some of it, because we're reviewing information that is business confidential. Sometimes it's trademark, so we can't necessarily release that. But having said that, where we do look to closely at where the source of the money is coming from, we would never want to receive money that's coming from illicit sources or something that we're uncomfortable with. So we do look at as we look at their entire financial picture, and believe me, it is pretty extensive. We do look at sources of funds to ensure that we're not accepting funds from somewhere that are sourced illicitly or somewhere. Where does it go? It gets paid into the OLG to cover the cost of the investigation and other costs that go. So it goes there, and then they pay a 10% tax to the city as well, to the Office of Tax Revenue. They pay a 10% tax on their gross profit, what we call GGR, gross gaming revenue, and so they pay a separate, and that's paid separately to OTR. So on a monthly basis, they file and pay a tax on that. That goes to the general fund, and then yearly there's from the funds collected by OTR then makes a payment to the Department of Behavioral Health, about $200,000 per year, and that goes to the responsible gambling program.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Tara, for that question. Former Commissioner Alan Gambrell, go ahead, you have the floor.
Hi, good evening. Just two quick comments. One, I'm sure that ANC 1C will take care to assess the issue of gambling in relation to the good work that's been done over the years with ABC Lights and seeing to make Adams Morgan nightlife a much safer place. Secondly, just in terms of the comment, the wild accusations of police racism and white supremacy, white privilege, that does your argument, the caller, no service whatsoever. You totally lost me when you threw those out there. I'd urge you to back away from that kind of language. It doesn't do you any good.
Okay, thank you, Alan. So do we have other questions from commissioners? We have a hand up. Carol, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm not a commissioner. Do you want me to wait?
No.
Okay.
Go right ahead. I didn't see any other questions.
Sure. This is Carol Miller, and I've been a resident here for almost 20 years and engaged in the community in many ways. I was going to ask, what was the thinking of how this would benefit DC or the community as a whole, other than the tax generation to pay for gambling addiction and some of those other things? In what way was this seen to be something DC decided to do to make this a better city? Are there some positives I'm not hearing that I don't see on the surface here?
Well, I think the one, I don't think I can comment on what was in the mind of the city council. Obviously, this is something that the city council passed, and what they felt was good for the city. And from what I've read, it's that it brings in additional revenue into the city, into the general fund. And so that's a benefit that it's bringing in more revenue, just in the same way that the lottery brings in revenue into the city and puts about roughly $44 million into the general fund from the lottery alone into the city. So I think that was probably part of the thinking. But again, I being not part of the city, and I wasn't here when this was all happening in the legislation process. My function is simply to administer the process.
Thanks, Peter.
Make one more comment. Maybe you could bring back.
What was that, Carol?
I just wanted to add that I would hope that maybe you could do us a favor and bring back the message to whoever creates the policies and laws about community notifications, that I think that our ANC deserves to get a notice pretty much as soon as somebody applies. I mean, that month, because thinking that us seeing it in press releases is enough notice to the community is but much different than an ANC, like you said, and I'm really happy to hear contributing comments. But it's best to have comments before the train is already out the chute, before a license is granted, I would think.
Oh yeah, no, and to agree. I mean, and for that reason, we make public as soon as somebody applies for a license, we update our website. Probably within a couple of days, we update our website that somebody has applied. And when somebody applies, it doesn't mean they're going to get a license. It's just that they applied. And so we make that public on our website, because I get calls all the time. As soon as we post something new, they call me about, hey, such and such company applied for a license. Can you tell me anything about it? So I know there a lot of people are watching it, because we get the feedback as soon as we put out a new put out the new list.
And I just want to jump in, and sorry if you can hear music. My neighbors live very close by because I live in Adams Morgan. So, so in regards to notification, the community will be noticed, and the ANC will be noticed anytime someone moves forward with the process with sports wagering or games of skill, which we haven't really touched on yet. And Peter is also an expert in games of skill if you have any questions about that. But so you will receive notification. So it's not that there wasn't notification, it just happened in 2019. So it was a different group of commissioners who maybe did not feel like they wanted to pursue it. So just wanted to clarify that. And like I said, if for whatever reason it doesn't seem to work out, the renewals for this particular license class they're up for renewal in March of 2022.
Thanks for that clarification, Sarah. Are there any questions from commissioners before we go back to people who may have already asked a question? Okay. Commissioner Carano?
Yeah. What exactly is a game of skill? That would be helpful to understand.
I can read to you the definition. It's a mechanical or electronic gaming device that rewards winning players with cash, gift card, or a voucher that can be redeemed for cash, and the player's skill, not chance or luck, is the determining factor on whether the player wins or loses. So having said that, it is technically a game that you play. It's not like a slot machine. If you're familiar with a slot machine, you can hit that thing. The algorithm that runs in the chip and the slot machine has already determined when you hit the button to spin the wheels, it's already determined whether you're going to win or lose. It's already done that. This is when you play it, each time you play it, you have the potential to win because it's based on skill, not chance or luck. The district, in defining it that way, made it a very, very narrow definition, meaning that not many machines qualify to be games of skill. There is one approved one right now in the district called Dragon's Ascent, and it's a skill. Because in some of the other jurisdictions, they have language in there that says it's primarily based on skill. and I've seen some of them, and they almost look like a slot machine. And then we've had some manufacturers propose some of them to us, and we've told them no, because it looks and plays like a slot machine, and it's not based solely on skill. It's based on really the spinning wheel, as I call it. But that's the game. It's new. These things are out there. We license those manufacturers, retailers on that, and also they go through the ABRA process as well. So if a establishment wants to add a game of skill into their establishment, they have to go to ABRA to get the endorsement, and ABRA will then put out the placard to notify the community that a game of skill is coming in. But that's what it is. Just to give you an idea too on just the volume of those things, the maximum win you could get on it is $599. That's the most you could win on it. So the bets are literally sometimes as low as 10 cents.
And Peter, may I jump in really quickly that there are age requirements when it comes to using a game of skill or participating in sports wagering in the district. So it's really important that you know that just not anyone can walk up. They have to be of age to be able to use these machines.
Yeah, the minimum age is 18 in the district.
Is the age also 18 to place a bet on a sports game?
It is, which again, the city council decided that it's lower than in some other jurisdictions. Most of the jurisdictions are 21.
Right, yeah. Okay, commissioners, any other questions? Commissioner Boots, please.
Just a clarification. Would like electronic poker or blackjack games, would that be considered a game of skill, or is that?
They generally don't meet the classification, because when we go into it, it's usually that in some of those, there's a chance component that's in there. And so in some jurisdictions that may qualify as a game of skill, but in DC, it tends not to.
Okay, thank you.
I'm actually just really curious to see a game of skill machine.
They're in the city.
Amir, shoot me an email tomorrow and I can tell you where they are.
Okay.
I must say, I think it's a skill my 21-year-old son has, not me.
All right. Eric, go right ahead.
I just had a quick question regarding the either the gaming machines or any other subsequent gaming. How close can that be to, say, public space, and can it be viewed from the sidewalk? I guess I'm just wondering if there's going to be, plinko machines, on the outdoor dining area, or just, bombarding people with obnoxious sounds, or just even how enticing these things will be from people just passerby. So I guess my general question is, are there any regulations on where these machines or games take place? Can they be within the public view, and then how close to public space?
I think, and Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong, but ABRA, I think, requires them to be inside, not in the outdoor space, right?
That's my knowledge on the subject, yeah.
Yeah. So they have to be inside the location. They can't be out on the sidewalk or out there.
Something just came to mind, and maybe Eric was also thinking.
Okay, but they could.
If it's next to, the window, or is it going to give like that? Will it be right next to the window? Will there be like flashing lights? Something sort of like that game of skill, whatever that is, or whatever it is that's advertising the sports wagering. Could that be next to the machine itself? Could that be next to the public space? Maybe next to a window or something inside, but sort of visible from the public space.
I haven't seen them. They usually are buried further in, is where they put them. I mean, one of our concerns going to the security is that we look at the security of the device itself, and so where is it located? And as you get closer to having it closer to the outside or closer like that, then you'd start losing some of that security issue. And so we tend to, but so far what I've seen is that they tend to be interior and not near window space. There have been some cases where we've actually told some on a different type of security issue where we've told them they have to board up the windows. They have to seal the place because the window is near a sensitive area in the sports book.
Yeah, and I believe that the law says they can't advertise it on the outside or look really like enticing to minors or anything like that. And these things are huge. These are very large machines. So if someone's willing to give up their window space, and that would be shocking.
Yeah, I think that's why we see them buried in the back. They the space is precious.
Right. Okay. Understood. Thanks for that clarification. So any other hands, commissioners, members of the audience? All right. Yeah, Faulkner, go ahead.
I have and you may have covered this, but you have shared a lot of information. Is there just a number, is there any sort of limit on the overall number of licenses of either type?
Yes, for the Class A's, the big stadiums, there's only 4. And that they're tied to the big stadiums, Nat Stadium, Audi Field, Cap One, and then St. Elizabeth's where the Mystics play. Those are the only 4 licenses, and 3 of them right now have, well, one of them's 2 of them are operating, another one's that has an application in, and no one has applied yet for the St. Elizabeth's venue. In terms of the Class B's, there was no limit put in. There was no limitation. What there is there is a limit on how many Class B's a particular company can have. They can only have 2. So that prevents, your big casinos, Las Vegas types of casinos, from coming in and just putting Class B's all over the city because they can only have 2 licenses. And so that cap does impact them. And so there is I shouldn't say a way to get around it. There is an exception to it, but the exception is very difficult to get. It's basically where you form a joint venture with a small business enterprise that's based here in the city that becomes the owner of the company. So in a sense, it's the David Goliath thing, right? It's Goliath coming in here and David, the little guy, coming in here and saying, okay, now I take over. How many Goliaths are going to want to do that? And so we've had 0 because they
also. In relation to protesting, one of the appropriateness standards that you can use in a protest letter, because you have to explain why you're protesting, is over concentration of like establishments in the area. So you can make a case that there's too many of that particular type of establishment in this area and it's having a negative impact on the community. So it is a protestable issue.
Yeah, and that's something that, as we have to make an assessment in terms of the suitability to license a sportsbook at a particular location, that may be something we take a look at and consider.
And also for minor clarification, if you have input on how laws are written or you think that changes should be made, contacting your council member is likely the best idea for you, because Peter and I don't write these laws, or at least I don't. They have to go through council. They have to get signed off by the mayor. I mean, you know how DC regulations work. So it's we are just providing information. If you have input about how laws should be written or any changes, please consult with your council member because they will be able to assist you better than we can.
Mm-hmm. We just administer it.
Good points. So Tara, I see you have your hand up once more. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just curious to know that guy Alan who spoke up and told me what I can and cannot say. What is the rule on these hearings for something like that? Like, is that normal, or I'm just curious because I've never had something like that happen before.
Okay, so we try not to have a back and forth here. So do you have a question, Tara, for Peter or Sarah?
No.
Okay, thank you. So thank you, Peter. Thank you, Sarah, for joining us.
All right, thank you.
All right. Moving to the next item on our agenda, the consent agenda. We have a couple of items on there with minutes from the 2021, the September meeting last month, September 2021. And we also have the proposed budget that Treasurer Faulkner went over earlier tonight. So that's our consent agenda. Are there any questions about that? Seeing none. Is there any questions from the audience? Nothing. All right. So all those in favor of adopting consent agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right. Moving on to votes is a nice thing too. Moving to next item. Some preliminary matters. There's a vacancy for 1C07, which had happened and which we brought up at our prior meeting. According to DC statute, we, as a commission, should both say where we will be holding the special election that will determine how that seat is filled or who does take that seat. This is 1C07, and also the times that will take place. So there were two candidates that were certified by the DCBOE. That's Grant and Jake, that I think are also on the line. But in any case, commissioners, we are, what I'm proposing is that we hold a special election for the seat 1C07. This must be in person, the election itself. This doesn't obligate. It happens to be that this will be held on November 3rd, which coincides with our next ANC meeting. The statute also requires us to set aside 4 hours for the in-person special election. So I'm proposing from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m. registered voters and residents of 1C07 can come cast their ballot in person during that time period. While this doesn't obligate our commission to meet in person, it does obligate at least two of us, well, at least one of us, and perhaps two of us if we don't have another impartial vote counter there to be at Mary Center. So I will certainly be there at Mary Center, and we'll be taking the meeting virtually from there. So the resolution is on the agenda. I'll leave it for any questions. And so I move this resolution for adoption. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second.
Thank you. And discussion. So this calls for our election, the special election for 1C07 again, November 3rd from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. In person.
Chair, I have a question.
Commissioner Clem, please.
Would it be possible to hear 2 minutes of introduction for these two candidates? Or I'm not sure. Would that be okay or not?
Sure, of course. Yeah. I hate to put them on the spot, but I'll start with Grant. And well, Jake just raised his hand actually, so go right ahead, and then we'll go to Grant.
Hi, I don't know. I guess my image isn't coming up. I'm not sure if there's a way to change that. Join as panelist. All right, here we go. Sorry, I was just out at an event. My name is Jake Valaschini. Thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce myself. I've lived in 1C07 for almost a decade now with my family on the corner of Champlain and Calorama. We live right at street level on that corner, and have 2 children. Sophia is 9 and Nico is 6. My wife, Martha, works in low-income housing policy. Kids go to Marie Reed Elementary School. They're just a block away from where we live. And I've been, tracking and kind of paying attention to neighborhood issues for as long as we've lived there, and served on the PTA. When the vacancy came up, got an email from Wilson Reynolds suggesting that maybe I might want to run. And I decided to throw my hat in, and would be happy to serve the neighborhood. Would also be happy if someone is qualified and as good of a person as Grant was able to do it too. So I think the people have 2 good options here, and I'm happy to serve if I'm chosen, and look forward to having the opportunity, hopefully. And if not, I will continue to be an active and engaged member of the community.
Thanks for that, Jake, and thanks for running. Any questions for Grant? Or I'm sorry, for Jake? All right, seeing none. Grant, go ahead.
Hi, everyone. I'm Grant. Jake and I are neighbors. I actually I have a dog, Ravioli, and he has a dog. And whenever they see each other, it is an event. So I agree with Jake. I think Jake would do a great job. I'm a lawyer downtown. I've lived in this apartment at 2301 Champlain Street for since April 2020. My girlfriend has been here for almost a decade. We're plugged in, and the reason that I'm running is because I love living here, and the people that I've been talking to love living here too, but it requires vigilance, and that's something that I've been learning more about. I've been able to talk with a bunch of residents. I've been able to talk to a few of the commissioners, and I'm meeting a few more in the weeks to come. And I think that we have this perfect microcosm of DC, and I love it here. And I think that we can continue to grow in the right direction. In fact, I already have feelings about the gambling discussion from earlier. But either way, I look forward to meeting you all. I hope that I can serve you. If not, then I hope that I can at least keep meeting you and continue to be a part of this awesome community.
Thanks, Grant. Any questions for Grant? Okay, seeing none. Thanks for joining us, or thanks for that little 2-minute missive. This is going to be a duel between neighbors. Very friendly neighbors, just how we like it. Commissioners, the resolution is before you. If there are any questions about the resolution, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll move to a vote.
I second the motion.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
All those against? Any abstentions? All right. Another good vote. So moving on, Commissioner Wood, go right ahead. You have your hand up.
I did want to move to add an item to the agenda that I did send some emails about it just to kind of clarify the timeline of things. Was hoping to try to propose it for, I don't know what happened, didn't get a response, to put it on the agenda for tonight, over 10 days in advance, but that's okay. Basically, a soon-to-be business owner in the former Songbird building has a cafe and is interested in getting a letter of support for stipulated liquor license so they could operate in the meantime while they're waiting to go through the formal process for a permanent liquor license. And I mean, if it's accepted for the agenda, of course, we could go into further detail. But one of the representatives is here tonight to explain the business if they're permitted to do so. So I'd like to move to add add to the agenda the item of considering support, a letter of support for stipulated license for Delight Cafe, which is located on, I forget the exact address, 18th Street Northwest. Feel free to second.
Okay. Is there a second? All right.
Chair, I have a point of information.
Sure.
Isn't Delight on the ABC agenda next week?
It sure is. That is a very relevant point of information, Commissioner Clem.
Sorry.
But it seems like the motion fails due to a lack of a second. However, it is a good point that Vera from Delight will be presenting to the ABC committee next week for the first time. And that's at 7 p.m. October 13th, where you can find the access details at anc1c.org.
I guess I have a question, sorry, about the process for stipulated versus regular license. And I guess I'm not familiar with the difference and whether the timeline is different or anything like that. So I guess I'm a little confused about the stipulated versus the regular and whether they're, whether that would be a delay in the business being able to operate or what
So a stipulated license would, so going to the business operating, I guess that first question of yours, would there be a delay for the business in their operations? This is for an ABC license. So it wouldn't stop the business from opening to serve food, pastries, coffee, as it had indicated on its placard, or lunch or dinner, any of those things. Now, just like any other business, any other ABC license application in the neighborhood, at this time, when something is submitted, and I say at this time because during the public health emergency or during the time of COVID, the notice period to file a protest has gone up from 45 days to 66 days. And during those 66 days, that's where a stipulated license comes into play. So a stipulated license with the support of the ANC would allow the applicant to serve alcohol there prior to the establishment being granted a license by the ABC board. Now, usually within those 66 days, usually within that notice period, what happens is the community gets to know the licensee or the prospective licensee, and that prospective licensee comes to committee, works out a settlement agreement with one commissioner, along with any civic groups or any community members that also have concerns, and then we have very often passed a stipulated license to go along with the settlement agreement, which allows that business to operate in that time period between the adoption of by the ABC board of the settlement agreement and the granting of the permanent license, and us having passed a settlement agreement at a regularly scheduled ANC meeting. So does that answer your question, Commissioner Faulkner?
Yes, that's helpful.
That may have been a lot of info. Commissioner Wood, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, just to kind of clarify, I mean, I did double because I want to make sure I was getting it right on this. Basically, had these owners reach out to me because they're from the Ukraine, trying to get understanding of the process. And Abra did confirm to me that, at least for them, a settlement agreement is not a stipulation for stipulated license. It would have to be something that's in our bylaws. I don't know where that is. If it's there, please point it out. I just want to help out business owners who are struggling. So I'm trying to get them an opportunity to make their case. That's all.
Okay. So moving on, and just to clarify, Commissioner Faulkner, as I had mentioned, it's our practice that if we have ever passed a stipulated license, which we have oftentimes, it has happened in combination with the settlement agreement. It's not required, but it has happened that way in the past. Moving on to the first item on our under ABC and public safety is a consideration for a new CR license by Entice. Entice is at 1725 Columbia Road, the former Chief Ike space, and the former ABC licensee Infusion, but Infusion had actually never opened, but was granted a license. So I'll just give a quick update that we are working towards a settlement agreement. The ANC and the KCA, the Colorado Citizens Association, ANC represented by me, and the group of, I think it was maybe 12 or 14 neighbors that had signed on to the settlement agreement with the prior establishment, Infusion, are all working towards a settlement agreement with Entice. So we've met with the applicant a couple of times, and we've also spoken on the phone. I feel pretty good that discussions are productive and the gap between us is narrowing. At this time, we don't have a settlement agreement for consideration. I move that we adopt a resolution protesting the ABC application so that it gives us time to, with the intention of reaching a settlement agreement, and the protests would be on the basis that without a settlement agreement, Entice, as the application currently stands, would have an adverse impact on the peace, order, and quiet of the neighborhood, and vehicular and pedestrian safety and residential parking needs. So do I have a second for that? No, that was a mouthful.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Commissioner Boots. So this is on the floor, and a discussion from commissioners or members of the public.
I guess my question, since I, have not been involved in the discussions of this settlement agreement, and and this is also, Commissioner, I think Boots's district, just I guess I'm curious because I know how close it is to a settlement agreement. I think Commissioner Ronnie, you just said it sounds like you're pretty confident, but how, is there a lot of space between sort of the group of 12 or 14 and the applicant, or do you think, and what the ANC generally likes? But yeah, I'm just curious about where that stands, if that's pretty close.
Yeah, so it is pretty close, in my opinion. I also met with the applicant earlier today in person, and we toured the space a couple of weeks ago. And there's, I'd say the gap is in the operating hours and in the sound or the sound mitigation efforts that would be done at the establishment, and also the entertainment endorsement and the implications of that entertainment endorsement for sound. So basically, the gap is hours and sound. Just judging by the discussion, my feeling is that perhaps the next draft, we have shared some drafts back and forth, but perhaps the next draft we will reach an agreement between the neighbors, the KCA, us, and the applicant. Does that answer your question, Commissioner Falcon?
Yes, that's really helpful context.
Mm-hmm. Questions from other commissioners? I see a question in the chat. It is about the Ethiopian restaurant that wants to move in where Chief Ikes was.
I just have more of a question of operations, and I think I'm just confusing myself, but I just want to make sure that I'm clear. Mm-hmm. Is that if we approve the protest, but then we come with an agreement before they come, then that do we have to rescind that protest, or is it just once we have the agreement, we're good? Or how does that?
Yeah, so the protest, if we've already sent in our protest, then in our settlement agreement, when we go to move to approve the settlement agreement, there will be in that settlement agreement, we will have text that says we're rescinding this. And then we send that on to Abra.
Okay. Sorry, I think I was confusing myself, so.
And the other thing is that the reason why, so this protest petition deadline is October 12th. So we'd have to send it in order to have the leverage to continue negotiations. But I think, there are other ones, and it may be the case with Glory, which is next on our agenda, that one is in, could be the end of October or I think it's the very end of October. But in that case, we may reach a settlement agreement before that protest deadline hits. So we may be voting to protest, but the protest may never actually go in because we may be approving the settlement agreement too. But that won't be the case for these two. But in any case, other questions? All right, hearing none. I'll move to a vote. All those in favor of the protest resolution, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Okay. Moving on to the next item on our agenda is a new CR application similar to the one I just spoke about. It's a ABC license application done by a restaurant, and that the name of the restaurant's Glory. Commissioner Clem has been handling the negotiations there. This restaurant will be located at 2406 18th Street. Commissioner Clem, would you like to let us know how things are going?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've been meeting with the owner and representative, and our negotiations are going well. We have some questions about noise remediation. In the past, that the venue has had a problem with noise and the neighbors have complained, and we're trying to make sure that what's going to happen, the new restaurateur is not going to have too much noise to disturb the neighbors. And so in our discussions, we're also discussing hours of operation, and the trash at that location is also a little bit of a difficult discussion, but we are on our way. But we have not come to a full resolution or settlement agreement. So I moved to protest this application on the basis of noise and hours of operation, and but looking to probably have all this resolved before the next meeting. So if I could get a second for that resolution, please.
So just to clarify, is the basis peace, order, and quiet? And
yes, thank you. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so the statute is like super clear.
Okay.
the bases for protesting. So I just want to make that clear. So peace, order, and quiet, and there are some other bases there. The impact on vehicular and pedestrian safety, residential parking needs.
It would be peace, order, and quiet, and mainly that's the big one for the apartment building behind, and
Got
that's
it.
the big
Okay.
resolution. And I mean, that's the big part of the negotiation that we're trying to resolve.
Absolutely. Okay, so protest based on peace, order, and quiet. Is there a second?
Second.
Great. Discussion, commissioners, questions for Commissioner Klum? Questions, members of the community? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call to a vote. All those in favor of the resolution, as Commissioner Klum had indicated, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Klum. Moving to Planning, Zoning, and Transportation Committee. We have a few items on the agenda. A special exception at 2916 18th Street. This came out of committee with a vote in support of this special exception, a vote that ANC1C support this with a recommendation that ANC1C support special exception at 2916 18th Street. Do we have anyone from a party seeking relief, the homeowner or their attorney? Oh, there you are. Eric, go right ahead.
Hi, I'm not sure if I'm on video as well, but I do have my clients here, Preston and Alex Ratliff, if you can allow them.
I'm moving them up.
There you are. Okay, great, thank you.
There we are. Hello, everyone. Again, my name is Eric DeBear, Land Use Counsel from Cozen O'Connor on behalf of the property owners, Preston and Alex, who will introduce themselves momentarily. As Chair Ronnie mentioned, this is a BZA case in which Preston and Alex are seeking to add a deck to the rear of their home at 2916 18th Street. It's in the RF1 zone, and they're seeking both lot occupancy and rear yard relief, which I can walk through if the commission so pleases, but I wanted to turn it over to Preston and Alex to introduce themselves and talk about their project.
Hello, everyone. My name is Preston. This is my wife, Alex.
Hello.
Thank you all for the time. Just give you a quick kind of rundown on our project. My wife and I moved here to this home in 2019. We've kind of been in the neighborhood since 2014, and did a renovation of our home in 2020. And the kind of final piece of this that we're looking to do is add a little bit of a deck extension on the back of our home, which would allow, the primary reasons are, A, is to have separate rear access so that in the basement unit, my wife's pregnant and due in January, and that would allow the basement unit to have separate ingress egress from the upstairs for when we have family stay, et cetera, as well as having kind of an area outdoors for the little one to play around with, as well as our dog. That's a little safer than the front porch area, as well as having a grill that we could have. Currently, we're allowed 3 feet deck, which is a little too close to the house for that. So as part of this process, we spoke with neighbors and got support from both adjoining neighbors, both to the north and to the south, as well as another neighbor 2 doors down, just as an additional step. And everyone kind of on the street that we've spoken with, we seem to have broad support, and most importantly from both adjoining neighbors. And so we are requesting relief from ANC and the BZA to increase the deck size beyond the 3-foot limit that we are currently constrained by.
Thanks, Preston. Appreciate it. So we will be going to present to the BZA on November 17th, I believe. The specific ask is to go up from the current lot occupancy of 58% to 67.6%, which is within the special exception limits in the RF1 zone. The deck would project approximately 11 feet from the home. Currently, as Preston mentioned, there is a small deck, and they would, I'm sorry, I saw the chat come up and it distracted me. The small deck projects about 3 feet from the home. So there is an existing condition, and I can share my screen to just show existing images and then the plan set that we've submitted to the BZA as well. So here is just the rear of Preston and Alex's home. As you can see, they are not deep lots. So really the rear of the homes along this portion of 18th Street are used for parking primarily. You can see the alley in the foreground, and actually behind the alley, as you're taking this picture from that view, is a large courtyard of an apartment building. So there is quite a bit of open space, which we believe limits any sort of impact from this relief. I will also show the plans as well right now. So you can see on the left-hand side is a section drawing, and that's from the northern side looking south. The right-hand side is as viewed from the alley. And you can see that there would be 2 parking spaces beneath, and again, allowing for access to the main level of the home without having to go through that basement or cellar level. Here is a kind of a site plan of the proposed deck. As you can see, it projects approximately 11 feet from the existing home. And again, you have a rendering from the alley here as well. And here's the overall site plan. As you can see, that the deck will leave a rear yard of 10.5 feet. What we saw from the pictures before is that there are other decks along this alley, and we don't believe that there will be any adverse impact to the deck, because like all decks, it's open beneath, and there still remains an alley and then open space beyond it. So there are, as Preston mentioned, support from both adjoining neighbors as well as another neighbor in the property 2 lots to the north. And so certainly we'd be asking the ANC today to support the application. Again, as Preston and Alex mentioned, this is so they can continue this single family use of their property and welcoming a new child shortly. So members of the community, and we'd appreciate and respond to any questions the commission has.
Commissioners, questions? This did come out of committee with an affirmative vote, so it doesn't need a second, but are there questions from commissioners? Okay. Questions from members of the public? All right. I seeing none, I move that is there a question? Oh, I may have heard something. No. Okay. So seeing no questions, move that we ask that the chair, myself, write a letter of support for the request for BZA relief by the applicant. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any against? Any abstentions? Okay. Love these votes tonight. Unanimous all around. So thank you guys for coming.
Thank you all. Appreciate your time. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you for the time. Good night.
Moving on to the next item on our agenda, presentation on the half marathon put on by the Rock and Roll DC Marathon people. There's Diane. There we go. Okay.
Good evening.
Hi, Diane. Let's see. You have the option to turn on your video if you'd like.
Good evening. I don't know if you guys can.
Can hear you.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. I'm going to be as brief as possible. This is the 16th year of this event. This is my 14th year in front of this ANC, presenting for the Rock and Roll DC Half Marathon. It's being run Saturday, November 13th. Normally, this is a March event, if you guys recall. This year, it is on November 13th. Still on a Saturday. So coming off of a year when we didn't run it. We're expecting a field size of probably only 10. That's about half that we have previously had in years. So between 10 and 12,000 runners. And the start time is 8:30 down at 14th and Constitution. And this event traverses wards 1, 2, 3, 5, and 6. We will not field a marathon this year. You will not see that marathon come back. To just if you guys remember this course, it kind of looped the city and then kind of went out into wards 7 and 8. We are getting rid of that portion. So the field size is smaller and your street closure times are going to shrink. So for this ANC in particular, those runners are going to be coming as they have typically out of the Rock Creek Park onto Calvert. And they're coming eastbound on Calvert, picking up Adams Mill, making a left onto Columbia, traveling eastbound on Columbia, picking up Harvard at 16th Street, and then continuing on down Harvard Street. Your total race closure time is going to be about 4 hours. So it's a street closure of 4 hours, probably seeing the first runner in your ANC at about 8:50, almost 9 o'clock in the morning. And that last runner clearing out of there at about 11:15, 11:30 in the morning. We add time for street cleanup that follows the tail of the race. And you'll see the runners in miles 6 and 7 in your ANC coming through. This area has always been a high energy area for the runners when they come down and make that left turn on Columbia. Always get great support from your community when the runners come through there. There's no band stage in this ANC. There'll be a band stage at Calvert when the runners come out of the park, and then they won't see another band stage until they get by Howard University by the reservoir. So there'll be no live music in your ANC. MPD is instituting clean streets as they have in the past, which means vehicles, will be asked to be moved off the course. I know that's been an issue for this ANC. Your ANC has written letters to MPD. I know in the past some cars have remained on the course, being that's a smaller size. We're asking MPD, especially in this ANC, to not enforce that clean street. But again, that may have to come from the ANC as well. But they do mandate clean streets for all their events in the city. There will be signs going up on Saturday before the event, just 22 by 22, kind of like those campaign signs that will go on the course, and they'll come down the day after the event on the 14th. And there'll be a mailing for residents along the course, reminding them that the event's coming up. And the no parking signs will go up that Wednesday, the 10th, before the event. So that's the event in a nutshell. I can answer any questions or address any concerns.
Thanks, Diane. Commissioner Wood, you have your hand up.
Thanks. So full disclosure, well, I think technically I'm still a distance runner, so I love running, but I do want to represent my constituents as well. I had a couple of people, I think at least one constituent, definitely people in Adams Morgan, that brought up a couple of concerns that I want to ask about. They're not particularly new, but I'm just curious how you're planning for it, if at all, this year. I think one you can't really, which is basically traveling north to south during the event. You have to go significantly east. I'm assuming that's your response. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And the second item is music. I've had some people say that just because this was miles 6 and 7, so it starts at 8:30, roughly 9:05 is when the elite runners will be coming through.
Right.
Is there any mechanism to make sure that the music's not super loud? I mean, I know
we won't have
force, but how does that work?
Yeah.
And Diane, I can't hear a thing.
Band stage for your ANC would be it's actually come out of it's going to be west of
Diane, are you there?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Commissioners, could you hear that? Is that, yeah, neither could I. Okay, looks like, all right. Diane, can you hear us? You're now on mute. Yeah.
Sorry about that. I think I got kicked out for a second.
Okay, go right ahead. We couldn't hear anything you were saying, so start from the top, please.
So sorry. The closest band stage is at Calvert, so it's actually in the park when the runners are coming up that hill, popping out next to the Omni and making the right on Calvert. So that's the band stage that's probably closest to your ANC. There's not another one until you get to the reservoir up behind Drew Hall at Howard University. So there's no, at least event-sponsored music in that strip of Adams Mill or Columbia Road. We have had like band stages, I think, at the Sunset, no band stage this year. And I think it's because of volume concerns that this ANC has expressed that, you know, we have had band stages historically in that route, but they have taken them out.
Thanks. I mean, I acknowledge that it's a very tricky, for the runners, it's great music, and for the residents, it's not necessarily the same perspective. So yeah, I appreciate that.
Right, right.
Questions from commissioners? I'll note that, and Commissioner Faulkner, correct me if I'm wrong, but what was the action from PZT?
I think we just placed it on the agenda without a recommendation, I believe.
Yeah, right. That's how I remember it. And some background is that, and Diane touched on this before, but I think it was in 2018.
Yeah, 18.
18, okay. 2018, this commission passed a resolution having the chair write a letter in support of the race, but only on the condition of not towing neighbors' cars. And still many cars were towed, and I personally received messages, and I think other commissioners at the time also received those messages. And I think from there, you know, the attitude sort of changed. And another thing I'll note is that people were also upset about being boxed in because of the route of the marathon. So they couldn't leave out onto the marathon courses because those roads were closed. So some background there. So having said that, questions from commissioners for Diane, or questions in general? members of the public? There isn't really any, there's no resolution or motion on the floor. So if commissioners are not offering one, then we can move on to the next item. All right. I appreciate you coming and
No problem at all. Thank you so much. And we will keep you informed of any plans. And please, I will provide my cell phone to all of the commissioners race morning. And it's a simple text or phone call to me if you're experiencing any problems.
thank you, Diane, and thanks for coming on and letting us know the details.
All right. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thanks, everyone, for sitting through that brief presentation. So the next item on our agenda at a PZT is an amended request for a special exception at 2240 Ontario Road, Northwest. Now, this came out of committee with a vote to not support the application, a vote that the chair, that PZT recommended that ANC1C have the chair write a letter to the BZA chair indicating that our ANC does not support the request for relief. Do we have the architect, and I see Michael Cross there, and Marty Sullivan, and we have the developer, Beck and Bert, the whole crew. Okay.
I just want to clarify that to make sure I understand and make sure everyone else understands. I believe it's only the new relief that we were saying we were opposing, because we had previously voted on the lot occupancy, and this is about the parking spot. So I know that this is complicated, so I just want to make sure that was clear.
Yeah, thanks for that clarification, Commissioner Faulkner. And to go a step further, the new relief concerns one parking space, one shorter than standard parking space. And so the relief being sought is to accommodate that shorter than standard parking spaces. There's two of them, sorry, and both of them are, they're requesting them to be less than the standard length. So at this point, I'll leave it to the applicant to present the case. So Marty, I see your video's on. Do you want to take it from here?
Yeah. Thank you, Commissioner. And I think Bert can go through the plans. We have a plan. We haven't filed it with the BZA yet. We wanted to talk to the ANC about it tonight, which I think addresses some of the comments from last week. I don't know if it moves the needle or not, but we wanted to show you how some of these things are being addressed. So Bert, is Bert there?
Yeah, I see him right there. Okay.
Yep.
Great. Thanks, Marty. Go ahead, Bert.
Yeah, so as we cover this a little bit, we're here tonight seeking your support for the additional relief to provide two compact parking spaces in lieu of the one full-size parking space. And I'm realizing I'm not sharing my screen. Let me do that here. All right, where's the, how do I present my screen? Sorry.
There should be a share screen.
Found it. Thank you. All right. Can everyone see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Cool. So 2240 Ontario Road Northwest is an 8-unit apartment building, which is on the west side of the block between Florida and Kalorama. By providing compact spaces, we're able to accommodate an additional vehicle for our lot, which would in turn reduce the impact on street parking. That reduced length allows for a cleaner roll-up door along the alley. You'll notice that we have a parking exhibit over here that shows the original, a garage door showing a full-length space or full-length compact space here, as opposed to what we're proposing, which has a clean roll-up door across the alley. It avoids a conflict that would be created if a column was required between the spaces at different lengths. So this down here is the conflict that would occur when this car on the left side tries to back out. They would come in conflict with that portion of the garage door. And it improves the turning radius of cars entering and exiting this property. Again, it's just easier for cars to enter and exit in this top exhibit. And this would leave more room for others to turn around at the end of this dead-end alley, as it has been noted already, that this alley is tight and the extra space would seem beneficial to everyone. We would give technically this space back for people trying to turn around in the alley, and they'd have an easier time turning back through, as they could use a portion of the space that is part of this property. Following the comments received in the PZE meeting last week, we have shown the light pole in the dead end alley and beyond our site based on a location provided by the surveyor. So the light pole's been called out here. That was a point of conversation at the PZE meeting. And we have doubled the amount of trash cans in the site, now showing 4 trash cans. It's shown here in the site plan, 4 64-gallon trash bins to be collected by private trash at a frequency to match the occupants' waste usage. That's it for me.
Okay, Bert, thanks. Are there any questions from commissioners? Marty, do you want to add something there?
No, I don't think I have anything to add. I just want to point, I wasn't there at the committee meeting, but the relief, as you can see, it doesn't actually change the room or the space. I mean, it improves it a little bit because the column is in, so it actually improves space in the alley. The car pulls into the same space in the front, so we think it's just, I think it's a win-win because it provides the extra space. But I understand there were questions. Hopefully the revisions with the trash cans and pointing out the telephone pole address some of them. But I don't know. So if anybody else, if you have any other questions for us, happy to answer them.
Questions from members of the community? You can dial *9 if you're dialing in, or you can raise your hand.
I just have a quick question.
Commissioner Boots, go ahead.
Just it's hard for me to visualize, like, when you're saying compact, of what exactly, like, the size of a car that you're fitting in here. Is this like not going to fit a 4-door sedan, like normal sized, or you're looking more, just a 2-door? Just can you give me some sort of better approximation of what size cars would be able to fit in these spaces?
Well, these are compact. They'll be compact size spaces, width and length. And then the requirement now under revised regulations is that if you have a requirement of 2 spaces or less, you can provide them as both as compacts. So the compact size actually meets the requirement. The difference is they threw in another provision that says if you're on an alley that's 15 feet wide or less, then you have to have the full length. And so that's why we needed the additional 2 feet here. If the alley was 16 feet wide, we could be compact. So compact is 16 by 8. I don't know what the average car is, but just assuming since the zoning commission has dropped the requirement for these kind of lots to all compacts, essentially, for anything that has a requirement of 2 or less, I assume that means most people believe that the compact can handle the large majority of cars.
So also to further clarify, Commissioner Boots, Marty had mentioned if the alley is 15 feet or less, the compact, he was talking about the width of the alley being 15 feet, being that minimum in the statute. This, just to bring some measurements to this alley, I think this one is it 10 feet or is it 11 feet? What is that?
Yeah, I think it's 10 feet, sorry.
10 feet, okay. Just to
It's 10 feet.
give you some measurements of the subject property as well.
Thank you.
For alleys less than 15 feet in width, the statute requires a full length parking space. And this is where the special exception comes in because this alley width is 10 feet. So any hands up from members of the public, star 9 or hit raise hand on Zoom. Questions from other commissioners? Commissioner Carano?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I unfortunately was not at the PZT meeting and was wondering if one of the commissioners who was could summarize the concerns and why there was a vote not to grant this relief. I did see some of the correspondence come through from constituents, including the light pole and the trash cans, which seem to have been addressed here. I would appreciate if there were other concerns that have been raised.
So some of the concerns that we cited at PZT were the fact that with a single space, there would be more space. There was more space indicated for trash. This is 8 units. And I think there were 4 trash cans in the prior drawing. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bert, Marty. And in the current, there's 2, and there doesn't appear to be any more space for that. The other thing that came up was just navigating the car in and out, that the space was not suitable for 2 cars. And when you come in at an angle and there's extra space there, you could make it so that your car gets in. But with 2 cars, it would be much more difficult to navigate. And the light pole was also an issue that came up and I think was emailed around, that made this space, even more narrow, makes the alley space even more narrow than the 10 feet that it actually measures. So, Commissioner Crana, I think that, I hope that answers some of your questions. And I see a hand up in the audience, Commissioner Gambrell, or former Commissioner Gambrell. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you, Commissioner. And I wanted to start off by just acknowledging former ANC 1C Commissioner Zach Gold and his good work. I was sorry to learn this morning that he had to move out of this single member district and resign from the ANC 1C. Appreciated his time and focus for this neighborhood. The commissioners, of course, received the letter I sent to the Board of Zoning Adjustment regarding this case, and I won't belabor that. I just want to make a few comments. Tonight, I realize that your focus is on this extra parking space, which I think the PZT rightly recognized as a matter of inconvenience to the future occupants and the current neighbors in terms of getting the trash cans out of the out to the alley and taking it back in. And if I'm not mistaken, I heard that the change that's been offered is to have just 2 trash cans for 8 units. I think it's pretty obvious that that math just does not add up. That's not practical. That's just not enough. That's unfortunately something that escaped the attention of the Office of Planning, which endorsed both parts of the special exception request, the parking and the lot occupancy, which I know is not on the table tonight. Speaking of the Office of Planning, they incorrectly stated the ANC 1C endorsed the special exception request in full. You obviously have yet to vote on the parking request. With that error, which should be corrected, I also want to once again draw your attention to, guess what, the lot occupancy briefly, which is, I'll say it again, is incorrectly stated as it's currently being 60%. Developers representative at the PZT last week said that the rear yard, what he called a cellar, does not count in lot occupancy. That's simply incorrect. Just read the actual language in the zoning regulations, which I submitted to the Board of Zoning Adjustment. Now, clearly, I know this, that the ANC cannot revisit the approval of the lot occupancy special exception tonight, as this has not been publicly noticed. Thus, I don't think you can take another vote on the lot occupancy, if you even would want to. However, I think it would be prudent if ANC simply added in its letter regarding whatever vote you take tonight on this parking special exception to add a phrase to the effect of, ANC 1C recommends that the Board of Zoning Adjustment carefully assess the accuracy of the lot occupancy assertion that is provided in this special exception application. In closing, why is that important? Because it is very possible that this misinterpretation of this zoning rule could potentially lead to the lot occupancy being changed citywide from 60% to around 70%. I don't think you want that on your watch. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Alan. So questions from other members of the public, please raise your hand. Just dial *9 if you're dialing in. Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Boots, please go ahead.
I think just from talking about the garbage cans, I would be interested in hearing like the logistics of how the garbage cans get from where they are on this picture to where they get picked up with the trash, especially with the roll cart there.
I can speak to that. My name is Beck. I'm the developer of this project. Thank you for taking the time tonight. So we will have private trash pickup by Tellytown Trash. And what they do is there will be a keypad on the outside of the roll-up door. And in the morning, they'll drive their trash truck down the alley, just like, Department of Public Works does. They type in the key code. They then walk to the cans, actually pull the bags out themselves, give a little shake, and then walk them out, shut the garage door, and toss them in the truck. So since it's private, the cans actually don't need to be pulled in or out.
Okay, so they'd be taking everything by hand from the cans to the trash.
Correct, yes.
Okay. And is it 2 or 4? I thought someone had said 4 earlier.
It's 4 now. We actually had 4 originally. We presented last week. We lost 2, so we were down to 2. And there were comments brought about the 2 cans, how we lost 2 all of a sudden. So we went back to the 4. And those are 4 full size 64-gallon, like real size trash cans.
Could you make that screen? Could you make that drawing bigger? Because I just can't see it.
The site plan on the left, or are you looking for the one on the right?
I think I see it on the left, but on the right is it's blown up just for the parking area. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, we're showing 4 trash cans over there, but it's kind of cut off at the bottom.
Yeah, the title blocks cutting off those bottom of those 2.
Right. So there's 2 trash cans behind where they were previously at PZT.
Yeah.
Question, Commissioner Boots. Does that answer your questions?
Yes.
Commissioner Wood, go ahead.
Not to harp on this too much, but out of curiosity, what you said you went from planning 4 trash cans to 2 back to 4. That second jump back to 4, what was the sacrifice, or what was the opportunity cost for increasing that number again?
So absolutely nothing. We kind of just took them off. There was no real driving factor for it. We had the 4 originally, and like you said, last week we had 2. I do not know why we went to 2, but someone made a comment about it, so we went up to 4. I completely agree. There should be 4 there. 2, I would agree, is a little ridiculous for 8 people.
I've lived in an 8-person house, and when we had 2 trash cans, it was chaos. So
I imagine.
Okay. Other questions or comments, commissioners or members of the public? All right. Seeing none, I will call to a vote. I do want to specify that the resolution, the motion in front of you commissioners is for the chair to write a letter in opposition to the request for special exception relief for the additional parking spots at 2240 Ontario Road. So this is what came out of committee. It doesn't need a second. All those in favor of that motion, please say aye. Aye. Any against?
Against.
Okay.
Point of sorry, Chair. We're voting on. Please present the vote again, please.
Sure. So this is the motion out of committee. What was voted on committee was in committee was that it recommended that the full ANC have the chair write a letter to the BZA chair in opposition to the special exception relief requested by the owners of 2240 Ontario Road. The special exception relief that's being requested is the shorter parking spaces as has been indicated by the developers. So does that answer your question, Commissioner Khan?
Yes, thank you. My vote is aye.
I have one more question. If
Mr. Boots, go ahead.
And this is logistic too, if we're voting, if we would vote and this was denied, would it go to the one regular size, one compact, or would it just be one spot behind?
So that if the relief isn't granted, then it'll be one full-size spot, because that was the amended. They're making an amendment requesting 2 compact spots, so it would go to one full-size spot. If BZA were to deny based on, were to agree with us and deny their special exception relief. Because we're an advisory body, we don't make decisions. So Commissioner Boots, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Other questions from commissioners, points of order? Okay, I do want to do a roll call vote because
I guess point of order, which is it's not clear to me the way that I guess one option as well could potentially be to not take a position. I don't know if I know it came out of committee as a certain way, so maybe we can't, but it's to say we don't either write in support or against this special exception and just merely are silent on what BZA should do on this particular point.
That's absolutely correct, Commissioner Faulkner. So what we could do is just take no action, and we don't have to be supportive or in opposition. We could just take no action on that and let BZA.
Yeah.
Marty, okay, I think that was just an open mic. Other questions, points of information, points of order. So there is a motion on the floor, and that came out of committee. And so I'll continue with that vote. All those in favor of the motion as was recommended by the PZT committee, I'm going to go from the top. 1C08, Commissioner Clem.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Commissioner Boots, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Faulkner, how do you vote?
Nay.
Okay. Commissioner Wood, how do you vote?
Nay.
Commissioner Carano?
Nay.
And myself, I vote aye. So 3-3, motion fails. At this point, there is no action. Would anyone like to offer a substitute? I'll pause for a moment for discussion or an offering of a substitute motion. Seeing no hands or anything, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you to the team that came out, Marty, Bert, Beck.
Thank you.
All right. So to the Public Services and the Environment Committee, it's a grant application from Platform of Hope. This came out of committee with a supportive vote, a unanimous supportive vote. Commissioner Carano, would you like to introduce the grantee?
Yes, so Platform of Hope is applying for a $4,000 grant in support of the purchase of laptops that would go to vulnerable families in the community who don't have access to computers and to internet, which, as we all know, has become ever more important over the last year and a half, given the pandemic and its effect on being able to work in person and go to school in person and just do everything in person. And I think we have Judy on the line who can share a little more about this grant and Platform of Hope's work and plans for this project.
Hi, good evening. I'm going to be super brief because it is almost 10 o'clock. Yeah, the Platform of Hope is working with cohorts of economically vulnerable families of color who are based in Ward 1 in the greater Adams-Morgan community. Currently, we are working with 3 cohorts. We are about to onboard a new cohort who will begin in January 2022. So we are requesting support for computers that would be provided to these families. As we've all learned, the digital divide is a real challenge for families, and we continue to be in this, hybrid model. Case in point, tonight's meeting is on Zoom. So we believe it's really important to support, particularly the adults in the households who, were never provided computers, much like the kids were provided with computers during the school year when they were Zooming in from home. But for the adults, to access things like a state EC application or even access ANC meetings or any of the resources that folks depend on, they need to have the computer and they need to have reliable access to the internet. So that is something we are very committed to supporting them with. And we hope that you will find our request worthy of your support. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Judy. Questions from commissioners? Questions from members of the public? Seeing none, I'll call to a vote. All those in favor of the grant application request of $4,000 by the Platform of Hope, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right. Thanks for joining us and for hanging in there.
Well, I'm also a Ward 1 community resident, so I've been really enjoying the conversation, and thank you all. And thanks for the money.
Okay, moving to next item on the agenda is a letter to Department of General Services to provide an online to track the status of DC school facilities. This also came out of committee with the unanimous votes that ANC1C sign on to this letter, send this letter to the DGS. Commissioner Carano, would you like to introduce this topic?
Yeah, so this letter and this issue is something that other ANCs have also been taking an interest in and been advocating for in the last couple weeks. My computer isn't cooperating with, there we go. ANCs 4B and 4C are also considering these resolutions, may have already done so, in fact. And this is an issue that's gotten more council attention in the last week or so. There's a lot of schools that have basically decrepit HVAC systems and really poor indoor air quality, and parents and community members haven't been able to get a straight answer on when these are going to be fixed. So this is calling for some more transparency and an ability to track when those repairs are actually going to be done, in the hopes that it will spur some further action.
Thanks, Commissioner Carano, for introducing that. And we get a link to the letter. The letter is on our agenda. It's the penultimate bullet point there, second to last bullet point at the bottom of the agenda. Just drop a link there. Commissioners, members of the public, any questions?
Just that I think it's great that, you know, we're weighing in on this, because I think this is a huge issue, and I've heard from parents and seen a lot of parents and teachers talking about it. So I'm really glad we're considering sending this.
Awesome. I don't see any other questions or hands raised. So I'll call to a vote. All those in favor of this letter to DGS, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? All right. And the final item. This is the contract to provide audiovisual services for ANC1C. It's a contract with Gordon, who has kindly turned on this video. So Commissioner Boots, I know that you had worked on this, and to refresh everyone's memory, we had also discussed this at our September meeting, and Commissioner Boots went back and incorporated all of those comments, and we've traded some paper back and forth amongst the commissioners and some communication with Gordon, and it seems like we came to an agreement, and this did also come out of committee unanimously. So discussion about the contract, commissioners. Seeing none. Members of the public, anyone that's left? Oh, we got a hand up. Oh,
very quick. At the risk of being self-congratulatory, we did it like a great job all around collaborating on this. So yeah, good job, everybody.
All right. Thanks for that. And seeing no other hands up, call to a vote. All those in favor of the AV contract for Gordon?
I actually, sorry.
Sorry, I didn't see.
No, I was making sure I hadn't missed it. I just wanted to, I can work on this on the back end as well, but I believe it notes 50% of the contract based on the schedule, but I'm not sure that it lists in here the schedule that we anticipate of hybrid and remote. So we will just need to work out the exact, calculate the exact amount, especially if it's due within 14 days. So just flagging that. And also my internet is not loading all the way down. So maybe, okay, you know what? I'm seeing the schedule now. Apologies. It was not loading.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Sorry. Google Docs.
Okay. So that's a fair question. And one of the questions that, kind of came up over the last few weeks. No other questions, call to a vote. All those in favor of adopting the contract, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? 6-0, another unanimous. Thank you, guys, very much. Gordon, glad we were able to get the contract done. And looking forward to your help for the next year, at least.
Yeah, thank you guys. Hopefully I get to see you in person in February.
Yeah, but I'll see you in person actually next month, right? Or actually, you don't have to be there. That's true. Yeah, but I have to be there. So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. All right. Well, thanks, everyone.